I launched my catering business because I've always believed in creating opportunities for myself. A full service catering firm that started off as a small food truck when I was in college has grown into a workforce of more than 50 people and provides catering for extravagant events all around the Chicago area. I have put in many hours, given up a lot, and been incredibly determined to succeed in order to reach this point. I finally accomplished my goal after nearly 10 years of hard work. In order to comprehend the complete and utter catastrophe that was my younger brother Mark's wedding last weekend, it is necessary to have some background information. For background, it's been almost 6 years since my family and I hadn't spoken. At the age of 14, my mother passed away, and my father remarried to Jenny, who is now my stepmother, within a year. From the very beginning, Jenny made it plain that she did not want any trace of my mom. There was a lot of friction between my parents because my father was so ready to move on that he gave her permission to erase all mention of my mother from our lives. Although my 10-year-old brother Mark became close to Jenny, I found it difficult to adjust to her abrupt and domineering presence in our household. My father and I began to grow apart at that point. During my time as a college student, I hit rock bottom. My dad insisted I needed to learn responsibility. Therefore, he wouldn't give me money even though I was working many jobs to cover my school expenses. All the while, he was paying for Mark to attend a posh private institution. There was a glaring disparity in the way we were handled. Jenny, who was always looking for a reason to put her condescending attitude on display, would find a way to undermine my catering business whenever she could. To her, it was just playing with a food truck, and she was quick to compliment Mark on his real job in finance. We lost touch once we graduated from college. The only time you could count on me was during holidays. The last nail in the coffin was when I found out 6 years ago that my dad and Jenny had secretly sold the house where I grew up. I didn't find out until after they had relocated, and by then, anything I had wished to retain from my mother's possessions had already been taken. I went to my dad with my feelings, and he told me I needed to stop being such a baby and get over it. I made the decision to go no contact at that point. Now let's go to last month. A formal invitation to Mark's wedding arrived in my mailbox out of the blue. He had prepared a note to express his longing for our relationship and his desire to mend our broken bond, which was sent with the invitation. Lots of deliberation led me to the conclusion that it was worth a shot. I decided it was worthwhile to attend even if our family history was a red flag. As a show of goodwill, I even offered to supply the wedding's catering at a steep discount. However, Mark graciously declined, stating that they had previously hired another firm. I felt a twinge of pain, but I ignored it. I approached the wedding with a cautious sense of optimism because the location in Lake Forest was so picturesque. As a relief, Mark appeared genuinely pleased to see me, but Jenny's demeanor remained unchanged. As soon as she laid eyes on me, she began making derogatory remarks about my look and my catering company. The ceremony was stunning, but I tried to ignore it and focus on enjoying myself. But the way the family sat down said it all. As if to subtly remind me that I was still an outsider, my cousins, who I barely knew, were seated at the same table as me, far away from my own relatives. During the reception, things went downhill rapidly. Somehow, my visibly intoxicated father found his way to my table and began scolding me without warning. Claiming I was a shame on the family, he made a strong accusation that I had shown up uninvited, even though I had a valid invitation with me. Jenny interrupted him before I could answer, saying that my presence was spoiling Mark's special day. She inquired, with a hint of irony, how much money I was making playing restaurant owner right now. She went so far as to say something about my suit, as if to suggest that I was unable to purchase such a high-quality item. The sheer brazenness of it was astounding. I opted to silently depart instead of responding or saying anything. With my father inebriated and Jenny obviously relishing the chance to insult me, I realized there was no use in getting involved with them. I noticed the caterers preparing the main dish as I made my way to my vehicle. Several of them were my employees, so I knew they were right away. I was taken aback by that. My company had just acquired the catering company that my business partner had contracted for the wedding. I wasn't actively involved in the planning because the previous owner had continued on as a manager. In a legal sense, though, I was now in charge of the business and the situation. To back up my suspicions, I contacted my operations manager. It was our event, I can assure you. Recalling my father's words, I realized that my presence at the wedding was detracting from its joyous occasion. And with that, I came to a conclusion. I would think they would also reject my catering services if they found my very presence repugnant. Immediately, I told my employees to get all of their belongings and depart. My staff of 25 was back in our vehicles, restocking with food, tools, and supplies within 15 minutes. Not long after that, 300 people were left without their entrees or desserts, and mayhem ensued. A major problem began to emerge, and people began to notice. There was nothing my dad could do when he tried to step in. They agreed to a provision in the contract with the former caterer's owner that gave us the right to cancel service in the event of discrimination or unfriendly treatment of our employees or owners, and we were able to exercise that right. I advised the venue manager to have my father get in touch with my attorney in the event that there were any disagreements regarding the payment, and I left my business card with her. There was an instant repercussion. My phone was inundated with texts from relatives accusing me of being self-centered and trivial by the following morning. Mark confirmed Jenny was correct about me when he sent me a lengthy text claiming I had ruined his wedding. As expected, my dad threatened to sue me over a broken agreement. Their messages were forwarded to my attorney, and I banned their numbers. A few hours down the road, I began to get messages from some of the wedding's attendees. To my surprise, I had support from a few of them. My parents' actions towards me were seen by them, and they expressed their disgust at what my father and Jenny did. Even Mark's friend, who had previously seen the work of my catering company, contacted me to express regret for the outcome. He complimented my team's professionalism and efficiency in responding to the crisis. Though I hadn't anticipated it, this encouragement served as a reminder that not all relatives had chosen to ignore the truth. The details of Mark's wedding, especially its aftermath, had been circulating in social circles for some time, as I learned as the days progressed. The drama that unfolded had apparently made its way among Mark's friends and coworkers. Quickly, Jenny's meticulously maintained persona began to crumble. Jenny attempted to minimize the situation and blamed me for destroying the reception, according to several mutual acquaintances. But word got out, and nobody believed her account of what happened. There was already damage. After giving it some thought, I still don't feel sorry about what happened. Neither did I cause a commotion or crash their wedding. Aside from the obvious lack of respect, I was also invited. I used my right to cancel service, and they proceeded to embarrass me. Everything was professional and not personal. Since they were against my presence, they were also denied my services. That is all. No matter how much I try, I just can't seem to escape the entanglement of a family feud that I had wished to put in the past. I don't know if I handled it correctly now. Was that too much, or were they justified in their treatment of me? Whatever the case may be, I've been feeling overwhelmed by everything and am seeking some perspective on Reddit. Am I acting reasonably, or is this an ATA situation? The first upgrade, much obliged for the tremendous outpouring of support. I am truly touched by the overwhelming amount of intelligent comments and positive feedback. Yet, I was not anticipating the story's level of popularity. I have attempted to reply to as many of the comments and mails as possible, but the sheer volume has been too much. Thank you so much for the thoughtful comments. I've learned a lot from hearing other points of view during this whole mess. Many people have wanted to know how this is going to play out in court and if my dad and Jenny want to sue me. Yes, as I had expected, they had threatened to sue. What has transpired subsequent to my initial post is detailed here. I contacted my lawyer immediately following the wedding disaster in order to head off any possible legal complications. Mark or his wedding planner signed a contract between my catering company and the former owner of the firm. We reviewed it. The deal is really firm, which is wonderful news. It includes a provision that grants us the right to discontinue service in the event that our employees or owners are subjected to unfriendly or discriminatory treatment. Things may easily spiral out of hand in this kind of scenario, which is why that clause was included. I contacted the manager of the facility to make sure we were ready, and he assured me that the surveillance cameras had caught every moment. In spite of some audio issues, the video clearly shows my dad coming towards me, and I can confirm that he was scolding me. Their aggressive behavior was enough justified to warrant the decision to stop catering the event. Even Jenny's snarky remarks were also captured on tape. Now that I had this proof, I knew I was in a strong position legally. My father's attorney was informed of the issue by a formal letter that my lawyer sent a few days following the wedding. The facts were brought out with an emphasis on how the contract permitted us to end services as a result of their aggressive conduct. We were even forthright about our willingness to offer the video proof if asked for it, and we brought it up. My naivete led me to believe that would be the last of Jenny's obstinacy and vindictiveness. A response requesting a complete reimbursement for the food was sent yesterday by my father's attorney. In addition, they mentioned the possibility of a lawsuit claiming that I had damaged the wedding and its guests irreparably by canceling the food. They wanted money back for the food and the trouble it made the occasion go off without a hitch. To be honest, I had no intention of giving in to their demands. I had no intention of paying them anything, particularly because they were the ones responsible for causing this situation first. I consulted with my attorney before deciding to submit a counterproposal. Half of the deposit can be refunded, but there are two requirements. Signing a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, is the first step, which prevents them from discussing the matter in public or posting critical reviews online. Second, in order to stop them from going after me or my business in court, they need to sign a release of claim. The offer has been sent, and all that remains is for them to respond. Jenny has already attempted to make trouble, despite all this legal maneuvering. Just a few days ago, I received a call from the venue manager informing me that Jenny had been trying to find ways to criticize my catering firm online. She wrote in her evaluations that we had ruined the wedding and exaggerated the situation to bring shame on the family. Still, dealing with her was a pain, even when the venue manager blocked her attempts. We will elevate the matter as defamation if Jenny persists in spreading false information. My legal team is closely monitoring the issue. Despite all the mayhem, my business has actually benefited from the wedding. After the wedding, some of the guests contacted us to say how great my team was and to inquire about potential future events. They were amazed by how swiftly and efficiently my staff left, according to a few of them. Despite how bizarre it looks, new economic opportunities may emerge as a result of this catastrophe. Though he did communicate with me via a relative we share, my brother Mark has yet to reach out to me personally. Mark acknowledged in the message that he was ashamed of himself for being weak-kneed at the wedding. He explained his silence during the heated exchange by saying he didn't want to upset our father or Jenny. He expressed regret and wanted to know if we could meet to discuss the situation. Regarding this, I feel conflicted. It seems like it's already too late to offer him an opportunity to explain, but I still want to. Until the legal matter is completely settled, I will refrain from scheduling any meetings at this time. At my own level, I've been giving a lot of thought to what has transpired. I guess I should be proud of myself for sticking up for what I believe in. After years of feeling like an outsider by my family, I eventually made a decision. From a professional and legal standpoint, I am confident in my conclusions. Nonetheless, dealing with this scenario has been emotionally taxing. Even though my father and Jenny have been far from me for a long time, it's still impossible not to feel sad. Instead of being a joyous occasion, Mark's wedding has devolved into a contentious court dispute and an unwelcome source of family strife. Everything is beginning to hit you like a ton of bricks. What this means for my connections with my extended family in the future is something I don't know. How long till everything returns to normal? Is there any way we can mend our relationship, or is it too far gone? It will take some time for me to figure everything out, and I still don't know the answers to those questions. Seeing how my dad and Jenny react to our proposition is my current priority. Maybe this whole ordeal will end if they sign the non-disclosure agreement and release any claims. I am ready to defend my business and myself in court if they refuse to budge and go ahead with the lawsuit. I will ensure that I keep you all informed regardless of the outcome. As always, I appreciate your words of encouragement and support. Particularly at this difficult and uncertain time, it means a great deal to me. Revision 2. The situation has only worsened since my last report, but I have finally finished with the legal aspect. I need to tell you something I just learned, so let me back up a bit before we get into that. An additional piece of information regarding the events leading up to the wedding was provided to me by a business associate of mine who had connections with the wedding planner that Mark and Jenny had engaged. It seems the mayhem hadn't begun to simmer for weeks before my arrival. It had been building for quite some time. Jenny, according to my colleague, was a pain to work with right from the start. Even though she had already given her approval, she proceeded to insist on making multiple last-minute adjustments to the floral arrangements. Almost every detail was a point of contention between her and the event coordinator. Due to Jenny's indecision, the wedding cake design was changed no less than 3 times. Even in the days leading up to the big event, she insisted on a total rethinking of the seating chart. Not only was it inconvenient, but it also cost the event planner a pretty penny to reseat more than 300 attendees. Plus, Jenny's relationship with the venue workers was fraught with conflict. Jenny apparently complained that their professionalism wasn't up to pace for a high-end wedding and made a number of condescending comments about it. The venue was famous for its first-rate service, and the personnel was among the greatest in the industry. So this was ironic. Even though Mark and his fiancée had carefully selected all the music months before the event, Jenny nevertheless attempted to change the set list at the last minute. Everyone involved was in for a nightmare during the planning process since Jenny was so involved, just like in those classic cases. According to my colleague, the event planner appeared to be about to quit in the days leading up to the wedding due to Jenny's incessant interference and unreasonable demands. Despite the mental and emotional toll Jenny's actions were putting on the whole team, the planner remained professional and continued working through it. A small sense of vindication washed over me when my associate informed me of this. Clearly, the vendors had been dealing with a lot more than what I had experienced at the wedding reception in terms of anxiety and confusion in the weeks preceding up to the big day. We return to the legal issues now. The attorney representing my father finally got in touch with us yesterday, and they've accepted the amount we offered. They chose to sign the non-disclosure agreement, NDA, and get a partial refund after what seemed like a lengthy conversation between my dad, Jenny, and their legal staff. They completed all the required paperwork this morning, and we refunded them half of their deposit after deducting the expenses for food, staff, and transportation. This concludes the legal conflict. Although I wasn't anticipating an apology or acknowledgement of the actual events in the lawyer's official letter, I was disappointed none was included. The fact that they consented to the settlement means that I am free from their potential legal consequences. Although the legal issue has been resolved, the human consequences have still to be addressed and are only becoming worse. Among the more worrisome developments is Jenny's persistent attempt to discredit my company ever since the wedding. She has been contacting multiple people on my staff in an effort to learn more about how my business runs. Fortunately, my devoted crew is aware of the gravity of this situation and knows better than to interact with her. Everyone on staff has been told to forward any messages originating from my family to our legal department. It goes on from there, though. Some of my business associates have also been contacted by Jenny on LinkedIn, who has circulated malicious rumors about my character and accused me of intentionally derail her son's wedding. Attempting to destroy someone's livelihood is a very different ballgame than just being furious. These efforts by Jenny to discredit me were really offensive. Our lawyer promptly sent her with a cease and desist letter upon learning of her actions. Now that her behavior is getting dangerously close to defamation, we are treating this seriously. I am crossing my fingers that the cease and desist order will be sufficient to deter her, but my legal team is prepared to take matters to the next level if required. Jenny has a history of pushing limits, so I wouldn't be surprised if she keeps pushing. My brother Mark, though, brought about what was probably the most unexpected change. I didn't anticipate much from him following the wedding, but it appears that his own marriage has also been affected by the aftermath of the tragedy. What I've heard from cousins and other acquaintances is that Mark and his new bride have already had their first big argument about the wedding. After the wedding, she apparently confronted Mark about how our father and Jenny treated me, expressing her horror at their treatment of me. Mark should have protected me, she informed him firmly, and it was intolerable that he let his stepmother and father humiliate me. From what I understand, she thinks Mark should be brave and confront our father and Jenny. They ended up having a heated dispute over it, which caused them to delay their honeymoon until they could resolve some of the difficulties. I don't have much information beyond that, but it seems like my brother is having to face the facts, which means he has to reevaluate his connection with our dad and Jenny. An odd jumble of feelings has crept up inside of me in regards to this. Knowing that someone else recognized the event for what it really is, on the one hand, a comfort. It's comforting to know that Mark's wife shared my disgust at our parents and Jenny's actions. Contrarily, I sympathize with Mark's situation. He's in a bind, and although I'm mad at him for being weak in my defense, I also know that our family has put a lot of pressure on him for a long time. It's not an excuse, but it's a tough situation to be in, particularly now that he's married and trying to figure out how to get out of this jam. I, for one, am intent on progressing. Now that my legal team has taken care of the legal issues and Jenny's efforts to undermine my company, I am beginning to feel some relief. I'm just trying to live day by day, not knowing what the future holds for my relationship with Mark or the rest of the family. I simply want to express my gratitude for the support I've gotten from my workers, my business partners, and even some family members who have privately contacted up to offer their encouragement. Right now, it's all I can think about. For the time being, though, I'm hoping that this chapter is finally coming to an end. I will inform you if anything further occurs. Once again, I am very grateful for your help. Third update, greetings everyone. Sending best wishes to everyone. To begin, I just wanted to say how much I appreciate everyone who has reached out to me with words of encouragement, insights, and understanding since I initially published my experience. What has transpired and the surprising twists and turns my life has taken since my previous post is something I would like to discuss with you because the last week has been absolutely life-altering. I had coffee with Mark yesterday. It was a necessary, if uncomfortable, emotional rendezvous, and I wasn't sure I was prepared for it. I believe we were both aware that this discussion had been building for some time. After years of covering up Jenny's misbehavior and our father's partiality, Mark finally broke down and apologized. I could tell he was carrying a lot of weight since he was obviously distraught. I had no doubt that Mark loved me, but it was a tremendous leap for me to hear him confess that he had helped Jenny control our family dynamic. Jenny has been manipulating their family relationships for years through money, Mark revealed. He said that she had persuaded our dad to transfer much of their wealth to her, including a portion of Mark's apartment purchase. Mark was caught unawares because he had no clue what was taking place. A great deal of the friction between them was clarified by it. He felt betrayed since, all along, Jenny had been behind this mask, making him think he could direct his own life. He is now seeking advice from a financial expert in an effort to reclaim his autonomy, having become aware of the situation. His decision to do this made me proud of him. It demonstrated his readiness to go on a life-altering journey. Also, Mark informed me during our coffee meeting that he and his wife had a breakthrough. Afterwards, she reached out to me individually to inform me of some positive news. Going to couples therapy is in their future. Mark seemed to be speaking out against Jenny for the first time in his life. They want to find a new condo that is completely separate from Jenny and will be in their names alone. Hearing this was incredibly comforting. It seems like they're making some changes and reclaiming their lives, which is something I wish they keep doing. Also, Mark and his wife have planned a little vow renewal ceremony for a few months down the road. The fact that several in-laws will be sitting at the family table during the ceremony is a symbol of their efforts to reimagine the traditional family unit. I felt my heart melt upon hearing this. It seems like they're determined to start again with our family story, one that doesn't have the poison that Jenny and my dad brought into it. My dad and Jenny have surprisingly been silent since signing the non-disclosure agreement. I found out about their social ramifications in their country club circle through some mutual contacts. Evidently, they had been spreading a completely false narrative about our family to their acquaintances, casting me in a villainous light. It appears that their story is being challenged, and they are now facing the repercussions of their conduct. Strange as it seems, their own actions have put at risk the social status they so much desired. Setting boundaries with harmful relatives is something I've learned the hard way during this whole ordeal. Even though they may lead to temporary mayhem, the correct choices, such as sticking to your convictions or establishing clear boundaries, are sometimes the most difficult to make. In spite of the pushback, I've found that being true to myself has helped other relationships blossom and heal in ways I never imagined. I am appreciative of the community's backing. It helps to know that I'm not the only one dealing with toxic family relationships because so many of you have contacted out to share your stories. For those going through the same thing, I pray my experience can be an inspiration. Life is too short to be in toxic relationships, but I've learned that it's always possible to make amends with people who genuinely apologize. Keeping my distance from Jenny and my dad is something I intend to do in the future. They've shown me their real colors, and I'm not interested in getting back into that dynamic. On the other hand, I'm hopeful, though cautiously so, that we can mend fences and get back together with Mark and the rest of the family. Now that Mark understands the need of setting better boundaries, I believe we have a chance to reconnect. My company is thriving despite the wedding incident, which was a major setback. Prospective customers were so captivated by the mayhem that they contacted me multiple times. There has been an uptick in reservations because word of our stellar reputation has spread throughout the neighborhood. Knowing that my years of hard work are finally paying off and that my company is reaping the benefits of my devotion is a satisfying feeling. I also met with my staff to go over what had happened. I wanted to make sure they felt appreciated and encouraged for being so professional throughout a difficult event. It was touching to hear their feedback. As a leader, I was pleased of myself when many people remarked on how much they valued the robust business culture we had created. Treating people well and creating a nice work atmosphere are two things that it reaffirmed for me. My limits with Jenny and my father will remain intact. Thank you to those who inquired about upcoming family gatherings. However, I am eager to investigate the prospect of renewing relationships with Mark and other members of the family who are prepared to engage with each other politely. I'm optimistic, but it's a tightrope to walk. Relationships that bring me misery and despair have no place in this fleeting existence. Instead, I want to surround myself with supportive, happy people. Many thanks for the constant encouragement, accolades, and thoughtful remarks. To put it simply, they have meant the world to me. Although I may not continue to provide updates in the future, I felt compelled to share this last update with you in order to highlight the positive changes that have taken place. Stay strong and never give up on what you believe in, no matter how difficult it may be. You can't predict how it will motivate other people.